Hello, everyone. Welcome, MMALC family. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a great podcast as usual, and we're happy that you're with us. Do me a favor, please, in the chat box, put your first name, your last name, and your teacher's name in the chat box. Please do that now. We want to make sure that you get credit for your attendance today, as well as the school gets credit for your attendance. Okay, so please do that now. Put the name that you use in your classroom. Please do not put any nicknames. Your first name and your last name. The last podcast, we had a couple of people who just put their first name. We need your last name. And we need your teacher's name, because if you only put your first name, at least we can contact your teacher. So please put first and last name and your teacher's name. So thank you so much for joining us today. We have a great podcast, as I mentioned. We have someone here who's from Neighborhood Trust Financial Partners, who's going to give you information on the resources that they give to the public. These resources are free, free. And it's financial counseling. Now, when I say financial literacy, one of our teachers, Miss Iris Clark, brought up the fact that, what does the word literacy mean, right? So that was a good question. So for some of you who are not sure, you didn't think that vocabulary would be embedded in this podcast, but literacy is the ability to read and write. So if I say financial literacy, that means you have the knowledge in a specific area, which is going to be financial. So the information that you are going to receive today, our presenter is not going to go in depth on specific topics, but he's going to show you how to navigate the website to get to his site so that you can get access to free financial counseling. Okay, so please, any of you who just joined us, please put your first name, your last name, and your teacher's name in the chat box. So without further ado, let's welcome our guest, Andres Machuca from Neighborhood Trust Financial Partners. Welcome, Andres.
Hi, Sula. How are you? Good
I'm
morning.
wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you spending your time with us to give our students and give our participants the knowledge that we need to move ahead financially. So let me ask you, how long have you been with Neighborhood Trust Financial Partners?
So,
And
go ahead.
and why did you decide to work with that organization?
Okay, great question. So, I've been with the organization going on 3 years. I actually make my third year anniversary this November. So, about 2.5 years. And it's been a very splendid time working with this nonprofit organization. All the amazing work that goes on. It's really revealing and it makes me feel very impactful. Now, the story to how I actually began working there is very interesting. Previously, I was working for Metro Plus Health Plan. You might
Oh,
have heard of it before. You guys out there might have heard of it.
yes.
That's a health insurance. And Metro Plus Health Plan is a health insurance that's city based, that's backed by the city. And they were focused on low income families and low income families receiving health insurance. Now, I interned at Metro Plus Health Plan throughout my college journey. So I
Can I
while
ask a question? When you
yeah,
say intern, what does that mean when you intern at an organization?
so intern, there's a intern like a trial, like a test. So I would go in, I would work for the organization and I would work basically for free
Ah,
and then I would be gaining the experience. So that's usually how most interns work. You
mm,
work for free or a lower pay than the regular employee, but it's because you're a student or you're just looking
Ah,
to gain the experience. Right.
right, right. Thank
So,
you.
right. So while I was in college, I would be in school from September up until about May, and then every summer break, I would I would intern, basically have my temporary job at Metro Plus Health Plan for the summers.
Ah,
Yeah, so that's how my journey started. I spent 4 summers at Metro Plus Health Plan, and I've seen many things as far as providing insurance to low income families. And throughout that journey, what I noticed was a lot of uh, our problems and health problems are revolved around stress. So it made
mm,
right. It made me take a deeper look into like what does the average person have on their mind that can stress them out that much? And as I got into things, I noticed most of people's stress comes from financial stress.
right, right,
So, right, whether that may be not knowing about the financial world and just everything that's going on, or even wondering how you're going to live from this check to the next check. So essentially, I was before I even started that temporary job, I was living essentially day to day, just trying to get by, figuring out how to make my money stretch as best as I could. And then we moved on to paycheck. So things started increasing. And now I'm actually happy to say, since I've been working with Neighborhood Trust Financial Partners, I myself meet with a financial coach once a month. And
oh,
yes, I myself, I do. And I can say I've came a long way. So I'm no longer living paycheck to paycheck. My finances are very more structured with a budget and a plan in place. And it just, I am definitely relieved of a lot of financial stress that I had in the past. And it furthers me to keep me going. It pushes me to keep me going further.
so that's a good point that you brought up, Andres, is the fact that this is not just for students. It is for everyone in New
Yes,
York City because we have some of our staff who also used your services and they found it to be a wonderful, helpful organization that propelled them to financial freedom
absolutely. Yes.
because it's go ahead.
So the work I'm revolved in now, financial counseling and everything regarding personal finances, I love the place that I'm at because that's exactly our mission, to make sure we can reach and impact anyone that can benefit from financial counseling. So anyone out there, if you feel the need that you can benefit from this, and everyone can, then we
Yes.
invite you guys and welcome everyone in to use our services and benefit as much as you can.
And this is free, 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 right?
100% free. You don't ever have to pay a penny. You don't ever have to think about a cost being associated with it. And also, I'd like to add, along with it being 100% free, it's also 100% confidential. So you
Ah,
Right. So your private conversations with a counselor never leave the room. You never have to worry about someone tracking your activity as far as what you and your counselor are talking about or what struggles you may be going through personally. That's all in a private space and all confidential with our financial counselors.
that's really important information for for all of us. It gives us a sense of security.
Yes, absolutely. And actually that was one conflict that I had. So when I first came on the job, I wanted to speak with a financial counselor, but I thought it would be a conflict because, hey, maybe my manager would
Mm,
hear what I'm speaking about with my financial counselor. And if maybe I'm not doing, maybe I could be doing better, would that have an effect on my job or anything in my personal life? So
hmm
just to know that everything spoken about or everything relayed with your financial counselor that it's 100% confidential. It'll never leave the room. It gave me a great sense of comfortability, and it actually let me open myself, and it made the experience way better.
Excellent. So when a student or a staff member uses your service, none of that information goes back to the school, goes back to the teacher, goes back to a case manager, correct?
Yes, no, that information and those conversations are 100% confidential. Not even with our organization. That stays
Oh,
between you and your financial counselor.
okay. Excellent. Good to know.
Yep.
Really, really good to know. So let me ask you, what makes a person a good match to work for your organization?
So what make a good match to work for our organization? Honestly, we have a very diverse portfolio of individuals who all are extremely skillful and talented, but there's no like set fit. I would say what's more the most important is the passion and the
Right.
want to care. So basically, if it's in your heart to want to help people and impact lives, then I'm pretty sure everyone out there can basically equip themselves and get the job done essentially.
Thank you so much. You know, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Sula Haska. I'm one of the case managers at Mid Manhattan Adult Learning Center. And I also would love to introduce to you the person who is running this podcast and the creator of this podcast, our engineer, Carlos Rosas. Carlos, would you join us?
How you
There
doing?
he is.
I changed my name for you today, Sula.
Oh, DJ Jiggy. And
But why
he,
did I change my name to DJ Jiggy? You got to tell the people.
okay. When I asked you to place your name in the chat box and I asked you to please place the name you use at school, that's because in the beginning, people would place their nicknames and someone would put in DJ Jiggy. So we couldn't find that person, give that person credit for his or her attendance, or get the attendance credit for the school. So that's why it's important that you place the name you use in your classroom in the chat box. Thank you, Carlos. That's very funny. Oh, okay. So if any of you are just joining us, please in the chat box put your first name, your last name, and your teacher's name in the chat box. Please place the name that you use in school, first and last name, and the teacher's name. Thank you. I see people still coming in. In addition, if you have any questions toward the last 15 minutes of this podcast, we are going to look in the chat box to see if there are any questions, and then we will address that. Okay, so if you have any questions toward the end, you might want to wait, or you could jot it as you go along. Please put it in the chat box and we will read those questions toward the end. Okay, Andres. So are you ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, Carlos, would you put up that first flyer for us, please? Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, most of you have seen this flyer before, right? I sent it yesterday, as well as it was sent, a month or two ago. This is, it says here, New York City Financial Empowerment Centers. What this is, it's a group who put together a variety of financial institutions for you to find counseling. If you see towards the bottom of this flyer, it says free financial counseling, that blue link, book an appointment. And that is the link that you would click into to make an appointment. Okay, so if you have this flyer and you can just click into that link, you'll get to where you need to go. Carlos is also going to place that link in the chat box for you. So you could take a picture. If you see any information that is important to you, please remember you can take a picture. In addition, You'll be able to view this podcast again for any information that you might have missed just by clicking on the link that you were given to get into this podcast, okay? Because this is all recorded for your benefit. So if you click onto that link, this is what you will see. Mr. Carlos, the next slide, please. And Andres, you can take it away from here.
Yes. So, like we said, our financial counseling services are available to everyone. They're 100% free, and 100% confidential. Now, when you click that link in the flyer, you're going to be sent directly to this page, and this is what it should look like. Now, basically, from here, all you're going to be doing is selecting these options. So as you can see on the left side, that's already selected. It's book an appointment for financial counseling. That's exactly what you want to do. And in the middle, it says choose a program. You want to make sure Financial Empowerment Center is selected because that's the office and the organization that we're connected with. And then on the third tab, right on the right, you're going to select your language. So
Ah,
English, Spanish, or whatever language you prefer, you can select your language.
Andres, can I
Yes.
ask you, is this service free for those whose status is undocumented? Undocumented.
Yes. Yes. 100% free. There is no cost associated at all.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yes. So once you select all the options that you prefer and that meet your needs, you're gonna click next, and then that'll take us to the next slide, please, Carlos. Now here is where you want to focus. Once you get to this page, there's a list. It's going to show a map of basically New York City or the area that you're in. And what you want to do is go on the right side. There's a list. And on that list at number 10, you can find my
Ah,
organization, Neighborhood Trust Financial Partners. And you'll see our name there. So instead of putting in a zip code or finding an office, you can just select the drop down, and number 10, you should find Neighborhood Trust Financial Partners.
take a picture, everyone. Take a picture so you remember the name.
Yeah, and like Sula mentioned before, these slides are available, so whenever you need them, you can refer back to them in case you need to. You just need to see what it looks like again.
Right.
Now, phone counseling is you see phone counseling there because before the pandemic, we used to have in-person services, so we would do in-person counseling. Now, our financial counseling is 100% remote. So
Oh,
100% remote means everything is online, whether over the phone, and also after the first session, we also offer video sessions.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so whatever you're more comfortable with, but it's typically a session over the phone, and typically around 30 minutes.
Ah, what type of information do they ask for from the participant?
So for the first session, it's basically just introduction, and you're just gonna get the conversation started. So it'll be very basic information as far as your name, where you live, and some of the basic financial items as far as how much income you get in a month and how much your expenses may be. And don't feel pressured to come in as if you need all the answers. The financial counselor you'll be speaking with, they're also able to help you break that down and walk through that with you. So
But
don't feel,
okay, go ahead.
go ahead. No. I was just gonna say, don't feel any pressure coming in to meeting with a financial counselor. This
So
is
I'm assuming they're going to need your phone number, right? And your email address,
Absolutely, yes.
because a student can communicate with the counselor via um, email or text after the first phone meeting, correct?
Exactly. So that brings me right to the next slide. So if you can pull up the next slide, please, Carlos. Thank you so much. So once you select Neighborhood Trust Financial Partners, directly under that, you'll see this. So you'll see a calendar with a time schedule, and then all the way to the right, those are our financial counselors. So what you're simply going to do is kind of like scheduling a doctor's appointment or an appointment to maybe go to the salon or somewhere, but you're going to see what day works best for you and what time works best for you. And then once you pick a day and a time that works best for you, we'll show what counselors are available. So you're also able to pick a counselor if different options are available.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Now,
So go ahead.
go ahead.
So if I selected, like, say, 11 o'clock and that schedule has been taken, it'll show up on the screen. It'll say not available.
Absolutely. So what you see here in this snapshot on this picture, some of the dates have that red box around them.
Uh-huh.
That means that we're all booked. So
Oh,
yeah, so these dates are not available, and that goes to show you that people are actually using the service and are speaking with financial counselors every day. So you want to choose a date and a time that works best for you, and then you can choose a financial counselor as well.
well, let me ask you, what are the days and times that these counselors are available?
Okay, so we're typically available Monday through Friday,
Slow
9.
down, slow. I'm writing this down. So
Okay,
write this down, everyone.
Monday through Friday,
Uh-huh.
9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Oh,
Yep.
any weekends?
Right now, I believe we're off on the weekends. We before I believe they did Saturdays. So
Right.
but honestly, that calendar on the website would be the most updated schedule.
Oh, okay. Good to
Right.
know.
So what you see there on that calendar on the link website, it's going to show exactly the times and days that financial counselors are available.
So it's always current.
Yes, it is always current and it is always live.
Now, can a person make an appointment by phone instead of going to the website?
Yes, you can also make an appointment by phone. So on the flyer that you shared earlier, there's that phone number there. And once you're connected with a representative on the phone, you're you're gonna go through the same things. They're gonna ask you what area are you in, like what's your zip code to find the nearest site. But right then you can just tell them you want to be connected with someone at Neighborhood Trust Financial Partners.
Carlos, would you do us a favor and put that phone number in a banner for us so that the students can see? Because Carlos is so good about doing stuff like this. Because not everyone can maneuver websites. There it goes, to make an appointment.
Yep. And once you speak with someone on the phone, just just say that you want to speak with a financial counselor from Neighborhood Trust Financial Partners. Neighborhood Trust
Yes,
Financial Partners.
you have to specify that because otherwise they can give you someone else, another
Right.
organization.
Right. So there's many different organizations that offer financial counseling, and what the office, the Financial Empowerment Center, what they usually do is they want to keep you in your area for convenience. So to make it easier on you, they're most likely going to look for someone in your area closest to you. But being that things are over the phone now or online, a lot of that doesn't really matter. So feel
Right.
free to let them know you want to speak with someone at Neighborhood Trust Financial Partners, and they can connect you right through.
Because this organization has been with our school for a few years. You've worked with us for many years, so you're our partner. So we
Right.
want to, have allegiance to Neighborhood Trust Financial Partners
Absolutely.
because
So
we got each other.
exactly, we make it happen. So
That's right.
being that we have that relationship and that partnership, we're ready to serve you guys. So we're ready and welcoming to listen to everything you guys have to say and make the best plan moving forward.
And this is wonderful. This is a wonderful opportunity for everyone to use this resource because we can all use a little help. I remember when I was going to the 99-cent store before I created like a family budget, and I noticed that I was spending too much money at the 99-cent store. Those 99 cents adds up. So in receiving assistance from one of your counselors, I was able to, adjust my spending habits.
Awesome. Look at that.
You
And
know?
for me, how I started basically not knowing what I was gonna get into speaking with a financial counselor. But you
Right.
know what I said? I said, let me try. Why not?
Mhm.
It's free. Let me
Right.
try it and let's
Right.
see what happens. And look, 3 years later, I'm still speaking with my financial counselor once a month, and they've helped me come a long way. So when I first met with my financial counselor, my goal was to bring down, uh, pay my student loan debt because I
Ah,
had
yeah.
a lot of student loan debt from college, and I wanted to build my credit. So within that 2.5 years, I've worked a lot on bringing down my student loan debt and building my credit at the same time by making those payments.
Yeah.
And now I'm actually happy to say that this year, what I plan to take a step forward in is home ownership.
Oh,
So it's there. The vision and the journey, it's definitely possible. Sometimes we're at a position that we seem like we think things may be impossible, like we'll never get there.
yeah.
But that first step is so important. Just take that first step and get the ball rolling. I promise you, you will not regret it.
And you're not locked in. This is what I love about it. You can speak with your counselor once a month, twice a month, 3 times a month, in whatever platform that you choose. And you're not married to that counselor. If you decide you don't want to continue, you could just let them know. You don't have to sign a contract with them. So that's a good thing to know.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've seen people who meet with counselors once a week. I've seen people who meet with counselors twice a year, and it's very unique to each person. And
Yes.
however you feel best to use the service, feel free to use the service and benefit from it as much as you can. We are here for you.
I thank you so much because knowledge is power. Knowledge is power.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
so let me ask you. So you gave the information about financial counselors. So tell us about like bank accounts. What students might need to know and how they benefit from being with a counselor to learn about the different bank accounts.
Right. So there's different things around bank accounts, and the knowledge that you feel like you absolutely need to know, you can get really into detail with a financial coach, with a financial counselor, excuse me. But some like a very general conversation about bank accounts is the difference between a savings account and a debit account. So
Mm-hmm.
a savings account is where you want to save your money. You're basically not going to touch that money because every time you decide to touch that money, they're going to charge you a fee. for going into your savings because that's your savings account. Now, your debit account is what you use for your everyday purchases, and that's your debit card that you use at the store, at the
Ah,
supermarket. That's the debit account. And the savings account would be your savings account where you put money to the side and you want to save that for the long term.
and the checking account, right?
Yeah, and the checking account would be what you use on the debit card every day. As far as the supermarket, you're going to Target or whatever that may be, you use your checking account on the debit card. Absolutely.
Excellent. And how about a family budget? Like you mentioned about yourself and myself about creating a family budget.
Yes,
Why is that important?
very important. So a lot of times we don't think about this because we're just in our heads thinking about what we're going through, but we all live with other people. So at the
Yeah.
same time, you have to count how much income and expenses you have, but also the people you're living with. So for me, I was a new dad as I entered the job. My daughter was just born. She's 2.5 now. And I had to create a family budget immediately because I wasn't just living for myself. I was
Wow.
living for my daughter and my wife and our family together.
Wow.
So we also live with other people. So one thing that was a that came about was our food expenses. Now for me, I'm a I would say I'm a picky eater and I eat very small. So I didn't think food expenses would be a big thing to budget for because I'm so simple, right? But I live in a house with a family.
Right, right.
Food expenses is a very big thing. So that's something that I work with my financial counselor on, and it absolutely helped me build my family budget.
Excellent. How about coins and cash and dollar bills? We
Yeah,
all know
so
how to use that, right?
yeah, hey, everyone knows about cash. Cash is still current in the world, although we have a lot of new technology and a lot of things are digital. There is still value in cash, coins, and bills. So you want to make sure you just save that, use that accordingly. So if you have if you have cash on hand and you don't need to use a card, you might want to use the cash because sometimes there are fees associated with using a card.
Ooh, good point. Mention
Exactly.
about the ATM machines.
Exactly. And that's a whole nother thing. So for the ATM machines, if you have, for instance, let me use an example. If I have Chase, if my bank is Chase, right? And I go to the ATM in the store, the ATM in the store, let me reverse it. If I have Chase and I go to the ATM in the actual Chase bank, like the
Mhm.
ATM at the Chase bank, and I take out $50, I would just be charged the $50 that I've taken out. I won't be charged any fees at all. Now,
Mhm.
if I do that same thing, I take my Chase debit card and I go to the store or go to a gas station or anywhere where there's an ATM, as you can see, they always have the fees that are associated with it, whether it's
Yes.
a dollar 50, $2. So once if I take out that same $50, not only am I being charged $2 or a dollar 50 from that ATM machine, my
Yes.
bank is also going to charge me for using that ATM instead of going into the bank.
Yep.
So that if I go to the Chase ATM machine with my Chase card and I take out
Zero.
$50, I
Zero.
would I would just be charged the $50, no extra fees. If I take my same Chase card and go to any other ATM, I'm probably going to be charged $55, $54
Right.
because of the fees that are associated with it.
And I know it's convenient to go to all these ATM machines, but if you think it all adds up. In addition, there's some ATM machines that people are gymming, which
Yes.
means explain what that means when I say
So basically, people are stealing information. That's the most simplest way to put it. And when you go to an ATM with your bank account and any bank organization, that is secured. So there's no way people can steal information or steal your card from that organization because they're secured.
Right. Excellent. Thank you. So, can you tell us a little bit about developing credit? Right.
Yes, let's
That's so
get into it.
important to have credit.
Absolutely. Credit is one of the most important things to have, especially nowadays with everything going on. So, just off the top, credit is what is actually driving most of the country now because as you see, certain loans are being approved by credit. If you want to purchase a home, they're gonna run your credit. If you want to purchase a car, they're going to look at your credit, and not only would you be denied in certain places, but the better your credit, the better deal you're going to get because it just shows that you have a reputation of paying your bills.
Right. Right. And also, even to get an apartment, they run
Absolutely,
your credit card, your credit score. You know,
absolutely,
they want to see that it tells the lenders how likely you are to pay things.
right,
Also with your bills, right? Paying your bills on time, you're developing credit also. But,
absolutely. And
so
there's even in some cases, there's some cases where you might have a ton of money, like $10,000
mhm,
that you
mhm.
save to yourself and you have it in cash, but that can't get you what you need. But a good credit score, that can get you what you need because it
Yes,
shows your history.
excellent.
So,
And these are the type of things that you could speak with your counselor about because
absolutely,
there's so many things that Andres is touching on. He's just touching on these topics, but these are the topics that you can dive into with your financial counselor,
absolutely. And
right?
our financial counselors not only trained and certified, but they're also like a coach. So whatever you feel the need to speak
Yeah,
about, they
yeah,
want to hear that from you. It's not like you may have heard the word financial advisor, and that's a bit different where they might just give you a list of things to do and they say come back to me next month, have everything done, and then we can go from there. No, this is different. Our counselors want to hear from you. They want to hear what you're going through and what your situation is. And then we'll come up with the best plan to form around your needs.
excellent. Hey, Carlos, would you do me a favor, or you don't have to do this because I'll make an announcement for anyone who just came in or came in a little late and didn't hear this announcement. Please place your first name, your last name, and your teacher's name in the chat box. In addition, if you have any questions, please place those questions in the chat box because toward the end of this podcast, we will read your questions and answer them for you as best as we can. Because just so I mentioned earlier, Andres is just here to give you a little snippet piece of information. You need to go into depth with your financial counselor. And as he mentioned, when you meet with your financial counselor, he or she may ask you, what is it that you want to work on? And it could be, you might say, I have a wedding to go to next year and I need to save. It could be about how do I save? How can I purchase X, Y, and Z? I want to, you know, move into an apartment. How do I build my credit score? If you have bad credit score, right, and you have debt, your counselor can also help you with that. Okay, these are all good financial pieces of information that we all need to know because I don't know about you, Andres, but I wasn't raised with any financial literacy. It's not like my parents sat me down and said, this is debit, this is credit, this is how you save, this is how you invest. That's why these financial counselors are here to help us. So please take advantage because this is free, 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 as I mentioned. And how can you not take advantage of something that's free, right? So
Absolutely, absolutely.
can you tell us, if you know this, what is the difference between a debit card and a credit card?
So the difference between a debit card and a credit card would be, so the debit card, uh, say you have $500 on your debit card, that's all you have on your debit card, and that's all you can spend is that $500 that you have. Now with a credit card, you can be approved for a higher amount and a higher spending amount, a higher limit. So a debit card is basically what you've gained and your income, what you put into it, it'll be in that debit card account.
Ah,
And a credit account, once you're approved, there are different amounts that you can be approved for. You can be approved for a $500 credit card. You can be approved for $1,000 credit card. You can be approved for a $5,000 credit card. And that all relates to your credit score and your credit history.
right. Thank you. And also at the end of the month, you will receive a statement that will,
Exactly.
right, that will indicate how much you owe because depending on how you use that credit card and what you use it, what you're purchasing, all those purchases will be on your statement. And that's another way that you can build credit history because you have your credit card, you're using it. Once that bill comes in at the end of the month, pay it off. Bye bye.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, Carlos put when you use your debit card, you are accessing money that you already have in the bank.
Yes.
It's like a checking account. When you use a credit card, you are spending money that you will owe the bank. That's
Yes.
why you have 1 month to pay it back. You want good credit history.
Right.
Okay, great, great information. Any other thing that you think that we need to know about?
I would say, like I said before, I myself come from a low income family. I'm from the South Bronx, New York, about 3 minutes walking distance from Yankee Stadium. Go Yankees. Uh, and yeah, I myself never thought I could get to a place where I was more financially stable because, like you said, so like we didn't come from that background of
And
financial literacy and just knowing what to do. Sometimes even a person from a low income family, you can run into some money, and if you don't know what to do with it and how to manage that money, you'll be
Mhm,
gone in a second. So
mhm.
I would say take that first step, and it's not about seeing results next week, but you definitely will. But it's definitely for the long term. So I'm glad to be where I'm at today, and I will definitely preach personal finance and financial literacy to my 3-year-old daughter now. So
There you go. There you go. Thank you, Andres. Carlos.
I have a question, Andres. You and I coming from similar backgrounds,
yeah,
and unfortunately, a lot of adults, the only advice that they give their kids, I shouldn't say, all right. What I find a trend, specifically in communities of color, the adults are telling their kids, don't do what I did. And they have this mindset that I'm already an adult, it's too late, but you can do better than I can. I don't necessarily agree with that. So somebody who is already an adult, whose finances are not necessarily on track, what do you think? What do you think are the most common mistakes that they make? That if they just make that one or two corrections, they could probably get back on track much sooner than they think they can.
right. So basically, the biggest misstep is waiting and
Oh,
procrastinating
that's good.
and not getting the ball rolling. So, for instance, when I first met with my financial counselor, I was waiting, just kept putting it off, kept delaying it. And when I finally met with my financial counselor, we noticed together that there was stuff on my credit report that my counselor could just almost wipe off immediately because it was just so simple as sending a letter or making a phone call. And it helped me a whole lot. So I would say that biggest mistake is, like you said, feeling like we can't do nothing about it. You can always, always, always do something about it. You can always do something about it. And most importantly is take that first step, because if you don't take that first step, you're never going to get to where you want to go.
In this culture, we're going to get to some questions that are coming up in the chat box, but I'm bringing this up because you mentioned it earlier. In this culture, specifically in communities of color, given like the culture of what's going on in the United States and what we're experiencing, how important is it, do you think, to own a home?
So home ownership is very important, and as the time goes on, it's becoming more valuable, because when you think about it, there's only so much land. So as people continue to buy homes, there are less homes for people to buy. And home ownership is very important because it's actually something that you own. So over time, if you in an apartment and you're renting, you can be renting for maybe several months, several years, but when you're ready to leave or move out, that's not your property. You have to move out and you have to leave that property. Now, if you own a home and you've been paying a mortgage on that home for those years, you can leave, but you can sell your home. So you have the right to do whatever you want with that property.
We're going to get to some questions. I'm going to put them up on the screen here. I'm going to excuse myself so you and Sula can continue. But we're going to start with the question here I'll put up on the screen for you. Can you help people get out from bankruptcy?
Good question.
Yes, we can help people from any situation that you're in. We can help you figure out the best next steps and help you move forward from that situation. So for bankruptcy, it may it may be setting that first foot forward and just getting the ball rolling as far as reaching out to creditors that you may owe and just working on that credit and that debt. So we can definitely help with that. And that's something you would definitely want to speak with a financial counselor directly and get more in detail about. Yep.
You know, there's something I want to mention. These financial counselors are experts in their field. This is their wheelhouse, if you would say. This is what they studied to do in school. So don't feel like it's not like coming to me, because I'm not an expert. These are experts in the financial world. So feel free to call them, get connected with them, get your finances in order, ask questions, and call them and speak with them as many times as you want, because they're not going to go, oh, it's this person, it's Sula again. They are passionate about helping people with their finances and their financial needs.
Absolutely. And this is what they do every day. So it's not like it's something out of the ordinary. This is actually what they do every day.
Right. So here's another question by Mr. Kawili. How about online shopping? Sometimes I see some unauthorized use of my card.
Very interesting. So online shopping, you always want to be careful about where you're shopping and making sure wherever you put your card information that it's not being shared or being stolen from somewhere. So if you see any unauthorized charges on your card, you definitely want to call your bank and
Yes.
speak with them about that so they can remove those charges.
Yep.
Now, sometimes they may be different things, like someone from your family could know your bank information and they can be using your card. You can also dispute that with the bank. And sometimes it may be that someone found your information and they tried to use it. So speak with the bank, and they can help you dispute those charges and remove them.
Yes. Yes, that was a good question, right? Good question. Also, when you go online shopping, make sure that that site is secure. You'll see a little lock next to the website. That means that that website is secure and it's encrypted, which means that any information you place into it cannot be seen by other people. Here's another one, Alessandra.
Just to give some background information on this specific question, this was posted when we were talking about making an appointment. So I can only assume that this question has to deal with setting up an appointment with Neighborhood Trust.
Oh, great. So please make sure you do that, okay? Here's Alessandra. Hello, Alessandra. If the person does not have an ID, they can take a passport and letter to prove where they live.
Absolutely. So when you're scheduling a session with a financial counselor, you don't have to worry about like the ID or stuff. We're just gonna ask basic information as far as your name, and you can be scheduled to speak with a financial counselor. Now from there, if whenever we hear ID, we kind of almost think that ID is the only form of identification. No, you mentioned the passport. The passport is the same form of identification. It holds the same value. So a passport and a proof of address is always valid to prove your identity and say you are who you are.
Right, right. Good answer. Thank you. Good question, Alessandra. Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Carlos?
Right. So we talked about home ownership. We talked about credit scores. We talked about bigger mistakes that people tend to make as adults. What about for someone who's kind of coming into their own now as a young adult? What do you think are the more important steps that they can take?
So one of the most important things is almost similar to someone who's a bit older, is you want to get started. So as early as possible is the best. So think about it. If you start saving from age 21, you're going to have a lot more saved up if you start saving from age 26 or 27. So it's kind of the same thing with personal finances. If you're as young as 21 or 20 or 22, if you get the conversation going and you start learning about these things, you'll save yourself from a lot of mistakes that tend to happen just from not knowing about certain personal finance topics. And as far as for a younger person, there are also a lot more opportunities out there because you have that time still on your side. So there's certain things that are available to people under 25 that if you're under 25, you definitely want to take advantage of that, you know? So for someone who is young, I would say most importantly, just get the conversation started so that you're more comfortable. So I know when I was young and I was 21 in college, I wasn't too comfortable talking about my finances and stuff like that because I wasn't even making money. I maybe had a side job. I was making minimum wage. I felt like there was nothing really to talk about, but I was wrong. There's always stuff that you can learn, and there's always something you can benefit from. You will never know unless you go and find out, or you seek and you shall find.
Right. Good. That's good. Also, if you start saving when you're younger, as Andres mentioned, it accumulates. Once you accumulate a certain amount of money, you may want to invest that money. And you can speak with a financial counselor about different options for that as well. So we have Ms. De Los Santos has a question from her class. Which credit card would you suggest that we could start with?
Great question. That question, you want to hold that with and you want to speak with that with your financial counselor because it may be different for everyone. Like everyone may have a different answer. So I may want to use a certain credit card, or maybe the best credit card may be different from the one that Sula may use, you know?
Right.
So that's a question you definitely want to ask your financial counselor after you tell them about your situation and honestly your goal. It's about
Yes.
what do you want to achieve with this credit and this credit card.
Mm-hmm.
Great
Right. And what
question.
are your goals financially? Right.
Exactly.
If I can add my own 2 cents to this one,
2 cents.
I always advise people two things to stay away from. Number one, the Discover card, because you will pay a fee for breathing. And if you like to breathe a lot, those fees add up. And number two, what was really popular in the inner city was the Rush card, which on paper seemed like it was a tremendous service. But Russell Simmons went to court on several occasions for basically take advantage of very poor people. You know,
Ah. Well,
that's
in addition, no, that's a good point, Carlos. And in addition to, you mentioned the Discover card, like American Express, they charge a yearly fee. So you want to look for credit cards that don't charge a yearly fee, unless it's a credit card that you can afford to pay an annual fee. So that's what the counselor can give you information about, which banks to go to, what the credit card offers. And also be careful with that credit card, because some people, they use the credit card, and at the end of the month, they have a couple of $1,000s worth of bills. So it can add up because it feels like free money. Ooh, let me buy this, let me buy that. Be mindful. Treat your credit card as if it's cash in your hand.
Yes, and things are changing every day. So when you speak with a financial counselor who's actually doing this work every
Yep.
day, and yesterday they referred so many people to a certain credit card, they're gonna know live time and what's the best thing to do at that moment.
Specifically for your goal.
Exactly.
this question goes back to setting up an appointment. It's actually in two parts, so I'm going to put them both up on the screen here. In terms of setting up an appointment, what if that person doesn't have a passport? Could the letter with proof of address work for them? Is that enough?
Yes. So when it comes to setting up an appointment, they're not gonna ask you for a passport or any of that. Remember, this is all over the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So they're gonna ask the basic information like first name, last name, your phone number, and maybe your home address, just to figure out where you're from, like if you're from New York City or you're from somewhere else. But as far as the proof of identity for like the passport and stuff like that, we won't really ask for that when first scheduling a session with a counselor.
Right. And just know, when you make an appointment with your counselor, and if you do it online, you will then receive an email stating your appointment is at 10 o'clock to confirm your appointment. You just have to be ready for the phone call, right?
Exactly. And
Don't
it,
go,
and it,
oh, I forgot.
yeah, and if you schedule an appointment and you can't make it, something comes up, you got an emergency or a doctor's appointment, feel free to like reach out or reschedule, but just there's no pressure. So don't make it seem like, oh, I can't do this day for sure.
Right.
Just try to get the ball rolling. And like I said, our counselors, we always work with you guys.
Right. Just call them, reschedule. Here's another question from Miss De Los Santos's class. Can you help people who have problems with the IRS?
Great question.
Yes,
Yes, we
that's it.
can.
Yep.
So there's many different ways and there's many different situations and issues people have with the IRS. There's many different ways we can help. So depending on what the situation is, like we said before, the counselor will listen and figure out what's the best next step. And similar to the IRS issues is kind of what I went through with my credit. I had about three bills on my credit report that were basically 7 years old. So
Mm.
they didn't apply anymore. And what my financial counselor was able to do was send over some letters, call some people, and they in a few moments, just a bit of time, they were able to wipe those collections from my credit report, and it helped increase my score.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. I hope this was as important for you as it was for me. Andres, thank you so much. This is so useful. And please take advantage of this free financial counseling. Please view this podcast again because if you want to see it again, refresh your memory of any of the questions or any of the information that Andres gave us. To make an appointment with Neighborhood Trust Financial Partners, take a picture of this, write it down, 212-487-4583. Andres, thank you so much for your time and for your knowledge and information that you imparted on us today. Carlos Rosas, thank you for engineering for us for all the podcasts that we send out to our community. And Andres, you stay behind while we say goodbye to all of our participants. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you place your first name, last name, and your teacher's name in the chat box because I need to see that your teacher's name is next to your name. Okay? So
Thank
thank
you
you,
for
everyone.
inviting me, Sheila. And thank you
Oh,
everyone for your time. It was a pleasure.
thank you. Thank you. We'll see you at another podcast, everyone. Okay? Bye bye now.